Okay, so let's summarize 2024 and talk a little bit about the priorities, the focus, and what we're doing at Minesto right now. I'm not going to try to divide this into two sections in this, so it's going to be blended into each other, topic-based. When we talk about and when we look back at 2024, I think it's really, really interesting to see that according to the Chinese zodiac, this is the year of the dragon. And for our clients and partners in Asia, I don't believe that they all think that that's a coincidence. This has been a very, very special year. You can still just see animations here, but we, for the first time in history, ever in industry, we're flying a 12-meter, 28-ton underwater kite, connected to the grid, generating electricity at performance levels that are safely above the threshold of commercial viability for this unique, heavily patented and protected technology that we have. We have also, towards the end of 24 and the beginning of this year, been able to invite DNV to a very thorough, in-depth analysis of this technology from technical perspectives, from sheer physics, all the way up to commercial viability and the cost structure of it. And the only way to interpret the conclusions from DNV there is that they are fully behind us, that the next step for us is scale up into arrays. And the first logical step would be an array or a dragon farm in Hestfjord in the Faroe Islands. This is also, I think, the year and where we've taken Minesto now. It's really sort of the obvious achievement to make Minesto the industry leader of tidal energy in the world. We've been claiming this based on, let's say, deduction, reasoning on the performance of the technology that we know is there and that we can reach cost levels that are highly competitive and on a different magnitude than anything else that's been put into the sea in this. But this is also now proven at the relevant scale for everyone to see that we are where we've been claiming for years. And I think that that's really sort of the catch-up race in that sense is over. I've been involved in this for so long, so I remember the days not so long ago when we were sitting on the sideline in industry conferences in the energy sector. Now we are on the front page of annual reports of industry associations. We have more invitations to keynote activities than we can manage as a company where we are now. This also means that the concept of a tidal power plant is no longer an horizontal axis turbine fixed on the seabed, which it used to be. It is our dragon. The dominant design is based on a principle where physics is on our side and where core competitive advantages are directly linked to this technology. This is not a journey in isolation where Minesto has been working over the years sort of in a sector or trying to tame or harvest energy from those tidal resources alone. We've seen over the years around 150 to 200 projects where they have at least reached relevant prototype scale in trying to test their technologies in the ocean and in ocean-like conditions. Those 150 projects over years was maybe 20, 25 actors 8 years ago. Today there's only maybe a handful actors left in this sector. The rest are based on conventional horizontal axis turbines. And if you look at who's been involved in all those investments, who's been putting significant investments into try to push forward. If you look at that list today, I think it's really interesting to see that Minesto now is taking lead in a sector where actors such as Rolls-Royce, General Electric, Siemens, Mitsubishi Heavy, Hyundai, EDF, and I can go on. They've all invested significantly in this sector with the first generation horizontal axis turbines. They know that the value of the market is there. They know that you can get access to this resource if you find it right. And now we are on top and we are leading this race into the future. I think that's the major milestone and achievement of 2024. There will be a while for some of those big actors to come around and acknowledge that maybe they didn't bet on the right horse. And we're going to be there and remind them of that, and that's exactly the phase and where we are today in doing this. Because physics is really on our side in what we're doing in this journey. And a reminder, you've seen this, I've shown it many times before, that this is not just about a fun little technical geek for technical geeks. It's market driven. It's about contributing to the global energy mix. And it's not only that the current version of the technology is reaching out into this market. We've also been able to secure on different levels technologies and solutions where we've taken a large portion of what you might label a visionary part of this market into real exploitable markets with the technology we have. Because we're pushing boundaries on water depth, we're pushing boundaries on low flow availability for the technology. And that's only gigawatts. If we turn this into business, and I know it's a little bit awkward for a company with a non-existent sales where we are as Minesto today. But what we're going after and what this is about is something that is far beyond many of the large Swedish industrial companies' sales and total addressable market today. We're not there with complete productification and manufacturing and everything. But this is not going away. This is on the contrary growing. The more we learn about this natural resource, the more it's grown over the years. So I'm actually showing you numbers that are below what we actually can show today in the recent update. So we can update this further. And we need it more than ever. I also think 2024 is a year where very expensive lessons have been learned on the energy transition. The Swedish context is one in this where we understand that the dynamics of high penetration of existing renewables, wind, we've had high hopes that we should be complementary with storage and different solutions and change consumption patterns. But it's obvious that the incumbent renewables, that is far from enough to really succeed with what we must succeed with, and that is to take the energy transition all the way. So by adding the plannable baseload characteristics of what we do, we create wonders for the financial case of taking any market with significant tidal resources towards 100% renewable. We've been saying this from the Faroese context for a few years, and we're now further diving into the dynamics of the cost structure of this. And I can tell you already as a heads up on this that it is even worse than what has been researched and publicized historically. I think that we can today safely claim that the only cost-effective alternative to create 100% or a net zero energy system in the context of the Faroe Islands that is economically viable is to add half of generation from tidal. in this context, and I'll see if I'll talk more about it later, but it's a matter of saying that, okay, should you bet on a novel technology such as ours? There are uncertainties on costs and mean time between failure and so forth as a new technology. Yes. But the problem is that the alternative scenarios are to a very large extent based on technologies that are mature, and still you can't get it together. The wind is not blowing in a way that makes it possible to store that energy over seasons, over the lead times needed. The hydro is not enough. By adding what we have, we fill this gap in a really, really interesting way. The value of the oil, if we do dig into the numbers, the value of the oil that has been procured, that we can take away, if we would have been installed at 50 megawatts in the Faroes between 22 and 24, we talk about 100 million euros of sales from the oil companies into the energy system that we can take away. So we're going to work further on this, and I'm going to show you why this is so important that we understand the financials on the higher system level. But this is us really going in depth on the analysis of the value of what we do. And we now have the tools to do the same exercises on other larger markets as well. And we can base it on the data that we know now that we can reach. If you look in the middle screen here, tidal at large and Minesto on the yellow line, that's the cost structure that we offer compared to others. And I think this is sort of the core of why you've seen all those divestments from the big players in the world. They cannot figure out a cost reduction trajectory for those technologies because it's all in weight, all in material. So if we then look at scale up here, we've shown this winter for the first time the system that will populate Hestfjord. An eye-catching conceptual design of the next version of the Dragons. I just want to underline that it looks a little bit different from the Dragon 12 that we have. It's a reshape of the wing basically, and there are some reinforcements to really take high loads. But it's 97% identical to the Dragon 12 that we know works well. And the design work, the product development that we foresee now for the Dragon class technology will move from creating functionality, pushing performance on the sheer technology level into adopting the system to the context at hand. So it's no longer a matter of improving hydrodynamics of the wing system or reprogramming the software for the control systems or finding new actuators to control rudders. That's behind us. What's the matter is now, the focus now is to get the right configuration. The length of the tether, the size of the wing, and the size of the generator, so we can optimize energy production at a specific site. Those variables that we sort of now combine, they are all scaling really well, and it's a modular approach. So it's not a matter of having 200 different products. It can be produced in the same streamlined production, but it's a matter of adopting it to the context where we are. What we also know from 2024 and the work we've been doing, we know exactly how to position our kites at the site, how they influence each other, and how to secure a site. The measurements and the work we've been doing in this is also something that it doesn't make you a hero in the same way as launching a nice Dragon at scale. But knowing where to put measurement devices, how to adopt simulation models on how to capture this resource, that is something that has been really hard earned. And I think it's safely to say that Minesto is a world leader in really understanding how you measure the value of the resource, the value of the energy in a site like this. You've seen us publish results on this historically on the site and the roadmap in the Faroes. And there's extremely good news for us, because now when we do the work bottom up, based on measurements, just the site in Hestfjord is 20 to 30% more energy than what we have calculated on before. And that is a huge impact on the bottom line of a project like this. And you can imagine, I mean, it's still tough. First of the world project. It's not going to be sort of the most fantastic investment case at the first step. So by adding that resource to it, we gain a lot of value in it. We've also worked hands-on with all aspects of handling. And we've learned the hard way that it's not just sort of to theoretically think how you should deal with a 80-meter long tether or swing this 28-ton kite in the air from the quayside into the water. A lot of the safety around it, the procedures of this, has had to be developed on the move. Not that we don't plan and think ahead, but there are always aspects to it to do it safely, to protect the gear and equipment, and to do it in an efficient way. Has been a major undertaking from, let's say, autumn until now, where we are now, in installation campaigns and in working with our local suppliers to deal with our Dragon 12. And you can imagine, we need to be really careful with this machine. There's only one in the world. And that's something that we, of course, want to change. So the final aspect of scaling up and working with it is that we've also now had a rationale to start looking into efficient manufacturing of those systems. We've frozen design, as I say, it's going to be, yes, a somewhat different configuration of the wing, but it's the same core suppliers. They are now on board together with Minesto in looking into how can we scale up manufacturing? How can we do it in an integral way with how you install? And how can you integrate as much testing and quality control as humanly possible? To do that onshore, be prepared to take it from quayside directly to installation in the Faroes. So with a site located in Sweden, with the current strong partners on board, and a detailed, let's say, model factory setup, we will be ready to produce on order basically any day in the situation we are now. You can see some of the views here that the manufacturing concept will have to, let's say, start with a wing. We don't want to move the wing just from where it's manufactured all the way to the quayside and to be shipped just in a straight line, maybe a kilometer at a maximum. You can road transport those to a certain scale, but above that it's going to be really costly. Then we bring modules into this assembly line, if you may call it so. You see the nacelle here, that is the electronics, the generator, the gearbox, and you have the important pod modules, the steering modules. So discussion is now, how much value added and how much content do you put at the supplier end? You move it into system integration, you test different aspects of functionality and safety of it, and then you put the system ready for installation at the quayside. It's good that we waited with this analysis until we have sort of a frozen concept and understanding of what it is that we want to do. Now it pays off. And it's definitely not a matter of building a factory and wait for orders. This is not one of those companies in Sweden, you know. So this is readiness to manufacture, and it's also to show the project investors that we know how to deliver the units needed for the first phase of build-out in the Faroes. Sales, where we are and where we want to be. Absolute high priority for Minesto. We need to show skin in the game from serious actors in different markets around the world. We need to get them on board so that they share risk with us. This is obvious and a business critical deliverable for where we are. We have broadened our team around this, and I also think that we have enriched our understanding of how you do business in this sector. Energy is long-term, energy is big infrastructure, and we're talking about relatively small projects, even though they are big from our company's perspective. So the journey has, for a few years, consisted of show of interest from around 10 actors on the same number of markets, into now dialogues on demo projects and feasibility studies. I would be lying if I wouldn't say that I'm disappointed that we haven't pushed a few of those studies over the cliff already. There is quite a few of them now that we have opened up after the launch of the D12 from the beginning of 2025 and onwards. One feasibility offer from Minesto, I mean, we're talking about an 80 to a 150 page documentation in that offer on what it is that we want to do together with our customers. And what we see is that the engagement from those is as such. No one is turning us down. They're all engaging in understanding what it is that they need to understand in order to engage with us. Taiwan, Singapore, Indonesia, Korea, of course the Faroe Islands, and so on. And the content of the work is very much related to understanding the value of the resource, mapping the site. It's the customization that we talked about. We really need to nail what type of system we put out there, and then put everything into a business case. I will not torture you with details on this, but when we say sales, it's not just about sort of bringing an experienced salesperson in here and shake hands and you have a deal. Networks and relationships, all that is really important. I believe that that's an area where we have no barriers whatsoever. The doors are open. We travel with energy ministers, we get into the absolute highest level wherever we go. That's not where the battle of pushing sales forward is. The battle is around really proving that they have the resource locally and that our technology can grasp it. So I'll leave it for now and say that understand the resource, all the aspects of the site here, match it with the right technology, match the power curves with the resource, populate them at the site, and you will be far into creating your business case. I'd say that there are maybe not even a handful of organizations in the world that can do this exercise, and only one that can do it based on our technology. And this is what we're doing on all the markets where we're active. We can do a lot. We can do a lot of this towards the left end of this one, but don't believe that we believe that we can do a lot in the right end of this. So we can have a broad funnel to the left here, but we have to be really careful with not overloading the system with promises when it comes to the first arrays moving in. But where we are now, we can do more, and we're going to do more and expand the dialogues into several of the markets where we've been historically, because of the process-oriented approach we have to this. I'll skip a few of those things here. What we're suggesting and what we believe is working is a setup where we're not asking people just to invest in a first small array. So in the Faroes, we talk about 300 million SEK in a first 10 megawatt phase in Hestfjord. We're asking the local industry and other partners to invest in a market build out in the Faroes, where this is the first small step. And we're back again to why do we do this? I mean, listening to the customers, the project investors, they want big, 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 but they want to start carefully. So by giving the market development rights to a local company and having the first project to be integrated into that, we believe that we are sort of reaching out to help in that aspect. And this is hard ongoing work with the local business community in the Faroes, bringing soft funding in, talking to different stakeholders that can provide different types of assets and financial support to build this out. We also believe that this is a good blueprint for other markets. We're in dialogue with those types of market rights with serious project developers in several markets. Start with one small project and have them as a local partner for a larger build out. And just a reminder, why? Well, we are a tech company. Minesto's balance sheet should not and cannot, the way we move forward, be the source of project investments at that scale. We can pick up the bill for site development and some consenting in the early phases, but in the end of the day, those entities will have to live their own life moving forward. We get a lot of support on different ways. I wouldn't say that this is necessarily financially important, but working with the Swedish government in different ways and with serious local consultants, EU, we get far into the right decision-making context when we work on different markets. Okay, to round up on good news, we said yes, I think it was autumn, Cecilia. Autumn last year. Cecilia Sandhage is our communications director and the architect and the owner of, I must say, one of the most successful communication and branding campaigns that a small Swedish tech company like ours have succeeded with. Much thanks to the boldness of SKF and of course to the charm of the dragons, if you may say so. I don't know, is there anyone here that isn't familiar with the Faroe Islands space program? I think everyone has seen that. That's good. So you know what I'm talking about here. It's sponsored by SKF. We're talking about 500 million views in digital channels and millions of viewers of films distributed all over the world in what we're doing. If you've traveled from Landvetter, you've seen the big screen where our product is displayed. It's still displayed there. The tourist organization and the government in the Faroe Islands, they have basically stolen this film material from SKF and us and are using it to promote the Faroe Islands with everyone sort of happy about it, so it's no conflict around it. And it's pedagogically a dream scenario for us also to really explain that this resource is for real and it's up for grab. And this, of course, is just the beginning of media exposure for us. When we get this, together with the launch of the Dragon, we already had good momentum also without a collaboration with SKF. But we managed now to broaden our interaction with stakeholders, with industry, and I think for me, it's also on a personal level, it's fantastic to see that we now also really broaden sort of the faces around promoting Minesto internationally. You see our COO, Johannes, who is from Germany. Quite convenient that we have him on show for the largest daily newspaper in Europe, I think it is built. Fantastic also promotion and explanation on what this technology is about. We get something on Swedish television, BBC, and much more. This is just sort of exemplifications of what we do. And of course, it helps also to legitimize what we do in more industry-close contexts. And we need even more push, even more exposure to reach some of the breakthroughs. I'd say the sales context where we are, we have convinced every local ocean energy team in those companies. They're on our side. So we're working with them to convince upper management to take a bet on tidal. And by being legitimized in contexts like IRENA, International Energy Agency, so forth, it helps a lot in that decision making. So I think that it's reasonable to predict that this is just the beginning of exposure. for what we're doing. This is not sort of a peak and that it's going to fade away. We will see much, much more of this. It's, for example, the Expo 2025, which is sort of an enormous event in Osaka. Yeah, I think you're familiar with it. Every 5th year or so, this is a key. Sweden, together with the Nordic countries, are working here in a joint pavilion around this. We're involved in it, and as the only tech startup or tech company in Sweden, we were invited to be a part of the official Swedish delegation, together with 15 other companies. And those companies are AstraZeneca, Saab, Volvo, on that level. So only one tech startup. And why? I think, well, the dragon is yellow and blue, but the whole explanation isn't it there. It's that we are addressing something that is right in the middle of what the ambitions of those kinds of meetings are. So for the kickoff of Expo, only one startup also in front of all the Swedish ministers and the Wallenbergs and everyone, only us, the dragons on stage, to introduce this. It's not going to pay off tomorrow directly, but it's really where we need to be, because we're building a new industry, and it's going to take guts, and it's going to take a lot of insight, strategic insights on the big partners that we get on board. But we are tremendously further into that path now than we've ever been. And I think with that, I'll cut this presentation short for now and save you some more technical stuff there. Thank you very much.